Hello, I'm Rachel Brooking and I am from New Zealand, and I'm the Member of Parliament for a place called Dunedin. I was previously, in the previous government, the Minister for Oceans and Fisheries, Food Safety and Associate Environment and Associate Immigration. So I think that is why I'm talking today on this topic. I want to start with New Zealand's place in the world. As you can see from this slide, New Zealand is, of course, at the centre of the world. We are also very far away from anywhere else. We have some islands nearby, and then the nearest big landmass is Australia, and that is a 3-hour flight. So it is a long way away. And I say that to set the scene because our immigration issues in New Zealand are quite different from the rest of the world. And that is because you cannot swim here, or you cannot run through any barriers or anything like that to get to New Zealand. Normally, you have to fly. We have a huge issue, though, of course, in New Zealand because some of our neighbours are those Pacific islands that the last segment was just talking about, and they will be very much affected by climate change in a very dramatic way. And of course, a lot of the rest of the world is going to be affected by climate change as well. Now, I'm here with the New Zealand delegation, and I have a photo here with Tangi Utikiri and Stuart Smith and another colleague who's not here. And I just want to note that this is a cross-party delegation from New Zealand, and that's important because mostly in New Zealand, immigration has not been an overly politicised issue that we see in some other places in the world. And on that cross-party note, last year, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, who is not from my party, he's from a different party, he came to India with a large contingent of people, and some of them were party members from my political party. So it was cross-party, and we are all very invested in our relationship with India, and of course it included many diaspora from India who are now in New Zealand. New Zealand is also different from a lot of other places because we have a Treaty of Waitangi, and this was signed in 1840. And this is relevant to immigration because, of course, before there were Europeans in New Zealand, there were Māori. Māori tribes had been in New Zealand for a long time, and when Europeans and other people came in the early 1800s or 1900s, they had a good economy that was already going, and there was a need then for the British to control its own citizens who had moved to New Zealand. So this treaty was signed, and it enabled my ancestors to come to New Zealand. So of course that treaty was signed with Queen Victoria, who I know India also knows about, and it's important to note that not everybody who came to New Zealand at that early stage of our young country in terms of non-Māori populations were Chinese gold miners that came in the 1860s. There were some Indians that came in the 1890s, and of course many other people as well. In New Zealand, we celebrate this Treaty of Waitangi on Waitangi Day, which is the 6th of February. And this is a recognition of the bicultural approach in New Zealand, that we have Māori and then the Crown, which represents everyone else. So within that everyone else, New Zealand is a very multicultural society, especially now. Auckland, which is our biggest city, is one of the most diverse cities in the world. In New Zealand, the Beehive is the centre of government, and it of course has included many MPs of Indian descent, and it is used for very many different activities, including many from the Indian community. So in New Zealand, we now have 300,000 people of Indian descent, and that is 8% of Auckland's population is of Indian descent, and Hindi is the 5th most spoken language in New Zealand. And so you can see there some photos at Parliament, various different Indian events. Where I am from, which is further south in Dunedin, it is a place that has a very strong Scottish influence. And you see here a castle, Larnax Castle, and I mention this because, of course, there have been many waves of immigration in New Zealand, just as there have been in many other parts of the world. So, of course, there were Māori first, then there was Scottish, and then a whole lot of other people that came, in particular because of the university in Dunedin. And that is, in fact, why I live there, and I'm lucky to represent it. We've had a large increase in Indian by descent people in Dunedin, and in fact in New Zealand. Some of that has been because there's been very specific skill sets that New Zealand has needed. So, for instance, we had a big rollout of broadband in New Zealand some years ago now, and to do that, we did not have the skill sets in New Zealand, so a lot of Indian people came to help with that. We also have, as I said, the University of Otago and also a really great polytechnic in Dunedin as well. And so these places have always had a very international flavour to them that has been embraced. It's a great place to be, and of course has international students as well as the academic staff. I want to talk briefly on the benefits of connection because, I'll go back. These are some events in Dunedin on the screen here. You can see with our Indian community, and there recently was the Indian High Commissioner to New Zealand who has just returned home. On the benefits of connection, we can, of course, do so much today together. And the woman on this screen, she was a refugee to New Zealand, and she has started a company, and I'm wearing one of her outfits at the moment, because she works very closely with India using organic cotton, and then everything else is a natural fabric that is used. So this is a great, in terms of circular economy that the Chief Minister was talking about before. These clothes can go back into the ground as biochar, which is a great innovation and something that New Zealand and India is doing together. And of course, the diaspora can provide many of those important connections, but also a different perspective on what a home country might be doing or might not be doing, and how other people can do things differently. And when people do things differently, there is always something to learn from that. We have, of course, a lot of relationships between New Zealand and India with cricket. For those of you who don't watch cricket, there was quite a large game the other day, and it was between New Zealand and India was the clear winner. But we have cricketers and coaches that go both ways, and even with our airlines as well. The chief executive of the Indian airline is from New Zealand, and the chief executive of the New Zealand airline was born in India. So here are just some pretty pictures of New Zealand because it's a great place, and I encourage everybody to come and visit it. And I want to note that there will always be immigration. There has always been immigration throughout history, and we know that will never change. But it is always important when we have this immigration that everyone is open-minded and respectful. And that goes to really any situation in life, I think. So in conclusion, the future of immigration, as I said, it will continue to happen. And we see in many parts of the world that it is already very difficult. And in New Zealand, it is different because we get to choose clearly who we want to come and live in New Zealand. Whilst there are those difficulties, it's so important to embrace the opportunities that come with the diaspora. We know that they bring those connections and perspective, and we should embrace those. So on that positive note, I want to thank you very much for having me to India for my first time and the first time of my colleagues, and we very much hope to continue these relationships and discussions.